You know, footballers are always looking for like hobbies after football, right? That's why a lot of them talk about it. Hell, the guy I do the podcast with, Julian, talks about it. His hobby after football wants to be working in media, and that makes complete sense. And you know, I encourage that because football for most people, it's all they know when they grow up or whatever. Not like me encouraging it is going to matter any more than anybody else encouraging it, but it seems like a good idea considering most of us are not going to get paid $100 million to kick a ball around and are kind of just going to play until we outlive our usefulness on the field, that you have some sort of solid backup plan. Keisuke Honda, the former Studley Japanese superstar, had that plan. Keisuke Honda hasn't played for 2 years, and he got involved in kind of venture capital, invested more than 30 Japanese startups, and generally seemed to be doing really well. Now, of course, Keisuke Honda doesn't fit in the category of people that, you know, didn't have a good amount of money come in over the course of their career. If you grew up in my generation, which is to say you are just old enough to be considered a millennial instead of Gen Z, then, well, you were basically, every time the Japanese team came on the television, it was about Keisuke Honda. Even if he wasn't the best player, he was the one with the most swag. He was the one with the aura. He was the one that scored the bangers. He was the one that took the free kicks, right? Like, he was the star. He was the person whom all the gravity on the field for Japan tilted towards. And he was very good at it. He was very good at being the lightning rod for that Japanese national team. A very good Japanese national team, by the way. If you go back and look what they accomplished, his last time at the World Cup was in 2018. And that's probably because by the time 2022 came around, he was 36 years old, and that was the end of his career. But I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Keisuke Honda. So I'm glad that he's also found another hobby past getting involved in venture capital. That hobby being playing football again. Now, I'm going to preface this with, I feel like I've made maybe a similar video before, although it's not similar at all. It's the video about Andy Carroll. I don't know if you happen to watch it. He's playing at Bordeaux now in the 4th division of France and trying to help raise up a big old club that's ended up in massive financial disarray and had to kind of reconstitute and restart itself down in the 4th division. He's playing football for the love of the game. And if you look at the numbers he's been able to put up since he got there, at least the last time I looked at them, he was amazing. Right? I mean, you can take a probably 45-year-old Andy Carroll and stick him in the 4th division of France, and he's still going to be eating people alive. And Keisuke Honda is basically in that category. He's not as physically dominant as Andy Carroll when he's fit, but he is clearly somebody that has the ability to do things with a ball that most of us could only dream of. And I don't care if you're 36, 38, or 50, you're probably still going to have that as long as you can move around a little bit. And the enterprising team in question is not in Japan. They're not in the United States. They're not in the Middle East. The team in question is what makes this so damn interesting, because I've heard two ways to say it. I've said Keisuke, I've said Keisuke. I'm going to bounce back and forth between those to try and cover as many bases as possible. Honda, the car. The team he signed with is in Bhutan, a country that the vast majority of you probably couldn't find on a map. I'm not going to try and diss you too hard. I'm just somebody that's super into geography. It's basically above India, kind of a little to the right. It is in the Himalayas, 100%. 700,000 people living in some of the most ridiculous mountains you've ever seen. Pretty closed off country, not because of some massive political reason, just because it's far away from everything. They have not made a serious impact in the footballing world. They don't have some weird oil state oligarch type league like you find in Moldova, where there's kind of this bureaucracy or oligarchy that's running the league that allows a team like Sheriff Tiraspol to collect enough talent to beat Real Madrid or whatever the hell that was. Right? This is not that sort of league either. This is a league that's totally out of the way, a national team that's lucky when it gets out of the preliminary round of qualifying in Asia, and a group of clubs in the Bhutanese Premier League that have never really made an impact on the continental stage. That's what makes this so damn cool, because they signed Keisuke Honda anyways. They signed him for one match, but that hasn't been the end of the story. This is a story from Rising Nepal Daily, which honestly, I've never been on Rising Nepal Daily's website before. The reason this story is on Rising Nepal Daily is because of the AFC Challenge League. If you don't know what this is Asia's Conference League. It's existed for way longer than the Conference League has, for 11 years. And it is the third tier continental competition. It is a competition that Paro is involved in. And their first round, their preliminary round, their kind of qualifying round match is against a team from Nepal, which is why the Nepalese news is covering this. They're going to be playing against a team called Church Boys United, which is the Nepalese representative. And this is a competition that Paro FC managed to lose last year. They lost in the preliminary round, so they've gone out and signed Keisuke Honda, as is being reported in Nepalese news, to play one match. Full credit to the coach, Puspalal Sharma, who is a former Bhutanese international, as the article points out, saying that the team's game was going to be built around Keisuke Honda. And even though he was on a one-match contract, he showed up and played a Bhutanese Premier League match before the matchup against the Nepalese team, and he wasn't able to score, but this article describes him as being threatening in multiple senses. So he hasn't played for 2 years. He's been sitting in boardrooms and corporate settings and buying startups and dealing with all that jazz. He gets a phone call from Bhutan, which, again, if you hadn't strung 2 and 2 together here to equal 4, is very far away from Japan, right? Like, this is not he's jumping over to Korea to play a match or two in the lower leagues. This is a really far trip. I mean, it's in AFC, but they basically lured him out with a promise of, hey, you want to play in continental competition? We think you might be able to put us over the top. And I'll be damned if Paro wasn't right, because if you load up this match, they beat Church Boys. It was a one-off match in the preliminary round, and Paro FC of Bhutan is into the group stage of the AFC Challenge League with a comeback win. They did not get a goal from Keisuke Honda, but this was not going to be the last match that Keisuke Honda played, because they are now back in continental competition. They've got a lot more continental matches to play. Now Paro FC has been drawn in a group with East Bengal, Nejme, and Bashandara Kings of Bangladesh. And they are apparently the host for that. So in order to cut down on travel costs in the truly ridiculous AFC, they just have one person host the group stage, with the first match being on October 26th, which is in 5 days, by the way. So Keisuke Honda, it is rumored, although it has not been confirmed by my friends the Sweeper Pod who first turned me on to this, that he will be playing in those matches. But what we do know is that he turned out in the most recent match for Paro. So I can't find any evidence of him playing after the Challenge League qualification match. 5 straight Paro wins, but he did return for an October 20th match, and I know that because he scored 2 goals, including a 92nd minute equalizer, in order to draw Paro level, and apparently, according to the Sweeper Pod, actually managed to win them the Bhutanese League. This was the league-winning moment when they were able to get this draw, and Keisuke Honda is the one that served it up, I guess. Even though it does seem like a bit of an indictment for Keisuke Honda that even though he scored both goals, it was the first draw in a long time. But then when you look a little closer, their rival for the title was Thimphu City. That was the team they were competing against to win the Bhutanese League, and gutting out that draw is what managed to separate them enough from Thimphu City in order to get the trophy. And now they have those 3 matches coming up in the Asian Challenge League against those 3 teams, and I would be surprised if Keisuke Honda wasn't there. But I'm just happy, that former players are finding hobbies. And honestly, this is so damn cool. This might even, I love what Andy Carroll's doing, but I feel like obviously the 4th French division and playing for a club the size of Bordeaux is in a bigger specter than just choosing to parachute in to be a superstar on the best team in the Bhutanese League to try and help them make an impact in continental competition. Like, Andy Carroll has a goal, right? It's to help Bordeaux climb back up the leagues, to be a part of history, and to have the last act of his career mean something to him and a bunch of other people. I don't even know what Keisuke Honda's goal here is. I mean, there's a very cool picture that's been attached here of Honda walking out in the jersey with a bunch of Bhutanese youngsters clearly glued to the railing to see this international star you've watched play at World Cups taking the field for freaking Paro FC in Bhutan, right? Like, this is the biggest sporting earthquake to ever hit Bhutan, the fact that he's there. It's just like, I don't know what personal connection Keisuke Honda has to Bhutan, if he has any. I don't know how they managed to talk him into this. There doesn't seem to be really any public details about how much he's getting paid, other than the fact that the person running Paro FC said he was on a one-match contract to play that match against the Church Boys from Nepal, and they won that match, and now he's back again. He just spawned back in to score 2 goals and lift the trophy with the team. If I was a former world-class international footballer, you'd catch me popping up doing stuff like this. Why not? You've got so much ability. You know, some people play in men's leagues in their city. You know, they play in a co-ed league just to kind of pass the time. This guy can just go play in a national league in Bhutan and be the instant superstar and, you know, lift a trophy and play in continental competition against other pro dudes. Like, hell, I'd do that if I could. It's awesome. It's hilarious. It makes absolutely no sense. I don't know why he's doing this, but he is. And that's cool.